So, welcome to Making Bluebird Houses with the Makery. Hopefully that's what everybody's here for. I have no idea, does everybody, maybe Susan, you can help me, does everybody have a kit? Something that looks like what's on the left there?
Yes, everybody ordered the kit.
Yeah.
Fabulous, fabulous. And so the picture in the middle is what hopefully you'll have at the end of the evening. And then the picture at the right is what hopefully you'll have next year. And that particular box on the right there is actually the one that was in this slide on the right. Those four little guys were hatched out in that box as of about a week ago. How many folks have Bluebird boxes already?
And do we have
No.
You do? How many people have Bluebirds already?
We don't have a box, but we do have some Bluebirds.
Perfect. That's perfect, because Bluebirds are looking for boxes. It's a little bit late for the first brood of the year. As you can see, they've already nested and hatched out young, but they'll typically raise 2 or 3 broods a year. And if for any reason they get unhappy with where they are now, they're going to be looking for a real estate agent later in the summer to find a new home. So a little bit about Bluebird biology. They're cavity nesters. So in the wild, they would be building nests in woodpecker holes, cavities in branch wounds, and that kind of thing. They do have several broods a year. They develop parasites over time. They get, I don't know, bluebird bugs that live on them that they like to get away from. And so that's one reason why it's not a bad idea to put a box out now, even though they've already nested, because they may be looking to get away from some of those parasites later in the season. It also is part of why you are going to build a Bluebird box that you can open, because you want to be able to get in there a couple times a year, or at least once a year, and clean it out to help get rid of those parasites. One of the issues with Bluebirds is they compete with other birds for nest sites, for cavities. House sparrows and starlings are probably the most prolific. The starlings are best, the best way of helping out the Bluebirds is a hole that's on the small side. I use an 1.5 inch hole for your houses because that's pretty tough for a starling to get into. Tree swallows, interesting thing about tree swallows is they will outcompete a bluebird for a bluebird house, but bluebirds and tree swallows tolerate each other fairly close together. So it's another reason why you might want to put up more than one bluebird house, because if you get tree swallows in one, you still got one that's available for bluebirds. We're at the northern edge of the wintering range for them, although I saw bluebirds outside my office window in January this year. So they are around all winter in Vermont some these days. They're subject to predation by mammals, which is part of the reason for recommending a metal pole to mount your house on. And they're really territorial. They're not happy with other bluebirds within 100 yards of them, which ends up being about 1 acre. But like I mentioned before, there's reasons why you might want to put up more than one house in 1 acre anyways. And then we've got a link to more information at the North American Bluebird Society. Questions so far? I gotta have somebody say something, because I don't know if I still have my audio or not.
I don't have any questions. Don't know. I don't see any in the chat.
Okay, great. So everybody has a kit that looks something like that, and you've got couple of different packages of nails. You're going to want to separate your nails into your longer nails. There should be 12, 15 of those longer galvanized nails. Those are 7-penny nails. And then you should have just a couple of the shorter nails. Those are 4-penny nails. So make sure you set those 4-penny nails to the side because they're going to have a special use towards the end. You don't want to use them up at this point. How are we doing? Can I get thumbs up if we're doing good so far? Lovely. Fabulous. So that's our goal. That's what we're heading to have it look like. You might want to take just a second and look at that. You've got a front, obviously, where the hole is, 2 sides, the back, which is quite a bit longer. If you look at the back for a second, you'll notice it sticks out both the top and the bottom of the Bluebird house. And one of the reasons for doing that is so you can either mount it to a metal pole from the back, or you can mount through the front of the back if you want to screw it right to a post or the side of your house. We had one year that we screwed onto one of the posts on our pizza oven outbuilding, and the Bluebirds loved it. So make sure that that back, when you get ready to put that on, sticks both above and below the rest of the house. So we're going to get started. First thing you're going to want to do is make kind of a U shape with your 2 sides, with the long sides down on the concrete floor of your garage or your workbench or whatever you're working on, and then put the kind of octagonal shaped bottom in between the 2 of them and sort of snug them together so you've got something that looks like what you've got on the left there. And I'm going to see if I can get more of the home scenes so I can see if everybody's good with that. Let me get folks to do like a thumbs up if you're ready to go to the next step.
See, one
Hey, Len,
person who's not ready.
Okay.
can I ask which piece is the bottom? I've got the 2 square pieces.
Okay. Yep. One should have sort of angles on it, and that's going to be inside of your top. And then the other one should have the corners clipped. So it's sort of octagonal, so kind of an 8-sided.
Yep.
And that 8-sided one is your bottom. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely interrupt me when you have questions. And the reason the corners are clipped on that is just for airflow. Let any water that does get in there get out. And for ventilation. So it's not a super tight house. The idea is to keep the rain out, but not get the birds get too hot or too cold. They need a little bit of airflow through there.
And then quickly, for the sides too, did you say there was the angled edge that's going to go towards the top, was it?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Thank
Hey,
you.
hey, Len,
Yeah.
Emily, the young man in Emily Blisstein had his hand raised. So
Okay.
I think Emily's.
I think I was just giving him a sweatshirt and he was accepting.
Oh,
this.
okay. I saw the hand go up and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, wait, we got a question.
Yeah.
We're just multitasking here.
Yeah.
Now we're prepared.
Okay. And you should have some pre-drilled holes for nailing the front into the sides there. You'll get them flush on the bottom and then go ahead and put a couple nails into each side through the front. This is so thrilling, being able to watch you guys do this. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but you're going to want to make everything flush on the bottom. The tops won't quite line up, and don't worry about that.
Len, someone has a question in the chat. They said their back piece is one back piece is much taller than the other side.
Yeah, the back should be much taller than the sides.
They said, okay.
Oops, I shouldn't laugh. Somebody hit their thumb.
Oh no.
Sorry, I think I was missing for the crucial information about where do the slanted sides, are they on the top or
Okay.
the top? And then
Slanted sides are on the top, and the short end of the slant is the front, and the tall end of the slant is the back.
Okay, I think we got it. Just a little nervous to let my kid hammer, but otherwise I think we're fine.
Yeah. So Emily, you're going to want to flip the side over, I believe, is what I'm seeing. Yes, so that your front is going to get nailed onto the short side of the side. You got it. And then flush at the bottom. There you go. Perfect. Susan, is everybody able to unmute if they have questions?
I think so. I'm looking around and I'm not seeing anybody who's in distress trying to get my attention. So
Okay. Abby, you look very relaxed. Are you all set?
I've got 4 nails in the sides,
Yes. Lovely.
so I guess I can relax now.
everyone's just hammering away.
So is the Krogan household building 4 boxes all at once?
I think so. Everyone's doing such a good job. It's exciting. I feel like we should do a play-by-play, Len.
We should definitely get have everybody hold up their boxes when we're done. We can do a tour of everybody's box.
Oh, that would be great.
It's under your name, honey.
I turned us off mute.
It's under your account.
Okay.
It says J10. No one knows. Hey, who's that mysterious? You know what the people saying? Nicely done. You got them right in there.
Okay.
So looks like some people are wrapping up. I'm just going to give a little sneak preview of the next step. So the next step, you're going to slide the bottom.
You want to come around, Jim? And this way, at least the floor is on. It's absorbing the impact. I'm not going right in.
You just have 4 nails to put in here.
Yeah, I think just where does the bottom look good?
So if you
As in later.
if you haven't nailed the bottom yet, which would be lovely, it's a good idea to slide it just 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch up from the bottom of the sides and the front. And the reason for that is the water will tend to drip off the bottom of the box better that way. And it has less of a tendency to wick up through those joints and keep the bottom of the bird box damp. If you've already nailed it and you didn't do that, don't sweat it. But if you are ready for that step right now, go ahead and slide that bottom up just a little tiny bit. And then go ahead and put one of your 7-penny nails through the front and into that little octagonal 8-sided bottom piece. Questions?
We're supposed to use the big nails.
Wait, what's the 7-penny nails?
The bigger nails. Yeah.
Okay, so if we can hold.
So you should have taken the two or three 4-penny nails, the small nails that you have, and set them aside, because those we're just going to use on the very last step. Man, I see some Bluebird houses coming together. So we're going to get ready to put the backs on in a second. And I went back to the very first slide here for a second, just to remind you of what the finished house looks like. So you'll notice that the back sticks up both above the top and below the bottom of the birdhouse. And that's so that you can fasten it to a wooden post or to the side of the building or to a tree or whatever. So remember, that's what you're looking for. So it's good to have a couple of inches sticking below the bottom and then 3 or 4 inches sticking above the top so that it covers both the top and then you still have some sticking out. So I'm going to go forward to the slide. So I think everybody is ready for that step on the right where you nail the back. You'll flip your house over so that the opening is down and you're ready to nail the back on. Questions? Is everybody ready for that?
We're using the same size nails we've been using for the rest, right?
Same size nails all the way, yeah.
I don't want to tell my kid I told you so, but if you say it, then
You're
Yeah.
ready.
And Emily,
Those
you
little
may-
nails would be so much easier, you know?
that's true. So you're doing good with the big ones,
But
though.
you're really gonna want them on the last step.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Emily, you don't want the bottom flush at this point. You want some of that back piece up and down.
We can nail it to a tree.
You got it.
I've already planned that part. Okay, where she just said. She said, we don't actually want this flush. We want this to come down because then we have space right there, right?
Oh, okay.
Nice job.
That's good.
How's everybody else doing? I see a lot of nailing.
That looks great. So I'm going to give another half a minute or so. I still see a little hammering, but a lot of people look like they've got this.
Yeah, a lot of reporting in that they're good. Had a couple hammering.
Okay. Next step. We're going to get the 2 pieces to the top out. And one of those is the piece with the bark on it. And you'll notice that the ends of it are cut at an angle. And If you look at it from the wood side, put the bark side down, and if you look at that, you can think of there as being a short point and a long point to that angle. So the more pointy side is going to be the long point, and then where the angle isn't as sharp, where it just kind of comes more gradually, that's at the short point of the angle. And you're going to nail that angled block flush on the short point so that it looks like that picture on the left. And here you finally get to bust out those little nails, and you want to just kind of center that block between the bark on each side. So have about the same amount of wood showing before the bark on each edge, and put the sharp corner of the little wooden block against the short point of the piece with the bark on it. Did that make any sense to anybody? No?
Oh, somebody says yes.
Good. Oh, good. Probably if I just shut up and say, make it look like the picture on the left, you might do better than if I try and explain it.
And Len, where are we tacking in these nails with this setup, or have we gotten that far yet?
You know, I didn't give you pre-drilled holes. I would say wherever's easiest for you. It might be easiest if you're kind of in the center, in a line along the center, because that way your piece with the bark on it won't have a tendency to rock.
Yep, that makes sense.
But just so you get 2 nails in it so that that little block can't twist around, you're good.
So there should be a smooth surface then between the two pieces of wood, right? This,
Why don't you hold it up a little higher so I can see, Abby? That looks perfect. Yeah.
that right?
Yep.
It's a smooth slide from one piece of wood to the other.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Are you able to see my setup? That looks good.
Yeah. I see. That looks great.
Perfect.
Do that on purpose.
Everybody's is looking good.
And Emily's skipping ahead. Look at that. I see a finished house.
Did we skip a step? We've got so many nails left over.
I gave you some extra nails.
Okay.
It's like IKEA.
So you've missed 8 steps here.
And the other thing is I probably only had you put 1 nail into the bottom so far. And I just kind of spaced that out in my directions. You might want to get another couple of nails into the bottom, either through the sides or through the back.
That hammering is our specialty now. So
Very nice.
There's a question. Do you mind repeating the best place for the nails?
I just suggested maybe the center line of the 2 pieces of wood, because then the bottom piece is kind of shaped like a rocking horse, and if you nail right in the center, then it won't rock as much. But anywhere is fine. Anywhere that's comfortable nailing will work. Is that good?
I see a few
That
people
looks
still
good
working.
from here.
I think just about everybody's done, Len.
Sweet. So hopefully you got the information at the beginning that one thing that we didn't give you was a post to put your Bluebird house on. And you've got a couple of different options there. You'll see the house on the left here is on a wooden fence post. And the Bluebirds seem pretty happy in this. They've raised young in this for, I think this is the third year that that box has had young in it. But you'll notice that there's teeth marks all around that hole of the Bluebird house on the left. And some critter's been trying to get in there. And it's probably some mammal. I don't know if it's a raccoon or what that is, but it's one of the drawbacks of a wooden post is that a lot of different kinds of animals can climb a wooden post and can't necessarily climb a metal one. So I like the way wood posts look, and that's what we have around our garden, and it just seemed like a great place for a Bluebird house, but I am going to have to put something around that hole so that it stays a little more secure for the birds. The other option is you can buy a piece of conduit, electrical conduit at the hardware store. I think it's about $10 for a 10-foot length, which is more than you'll need. They might cut it for you at the hardware store. You can cut it at home with a hacksaw. And then you'll notice that there's two little metal clamps that I just screw into the back. And so basically you're looking for a couple of conduit clamps and a piece of 1/2-inch EMT conduit if you're looking to go that route. 1/2 inch is probably about the smallest you can use. 3/4 is a little bit more rugged. If you want to go taller than 5 or 6 feet in the air, you probably should go with 3/4 inch conduit. Questions on the posts?
Does the metal post seem to keep the critters away? I know sometimes, like for like a wood duck box, they'll use like a guard.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I haven't seen any of those chew marks on any of the houses that we've got on metal poles. I think it was probably pretty effective with like a raccoon would have a pretty hard time going up that metal pole. It's certainly not a bad idea to put, a pie plate or something additional on there. I'm not aware of having a problem with the ones on metal poles, but that doesn't mean that it wouldn't be better if you had some kind of other guard. Other questions on posts?
How far off the ground do they like to be?
Oh, great question. I've heard from 6 to 8 feet. That can be a little bit of a challenge to manage in terms of checking it and cleaning it out. I think you're probably better off going as high as you can comfortably clean out, because I think cleaning it is probably more important than being 8 feet or 7 feet off the ground. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've got a
Yes. Yeah.
I have another question. I
Yeah.
have a little gap at the back of where this roof meets the back. There's like a little gap. Is that okay?
It's not ideal. It probably means I cut that little angled block a little bit too short because it's not hitting the front, so it slips down a little bit. Is that?
Yes. It slips down like a quarter of an inch, but enough to allow rain to go in.
Yeah. What you might want to do, Abby, is see if you can, without worrying about pulling those nails, see if you just hammer on the inner wooden block, hammer it down so that it bottoms out against the front a little bit sooner. Your two pieces won't be flush anymore, but what you're looking for is to get that to close up at the top.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Yeah.
Would they like you to start putting like threads in, like sticks in the nest, or will they just like do it on their own?
I think they really want to do it on their own because they might think that somebody's living there already if you put something in there. But it's not a bad idea if you wanted to like leave some thread on the ground outside the box, then that would make their life easier. They wouldn't have to go looking for thread when they got ready to build a nest.
It's like maybe if somebody starts your Lego set for you, that's not as much fun.
Yeah.
So really good.
Yeah.
Also, they don't really like the smell of cheese. Is it all that hair?
And that question reminded me though, one, I haven't read about this, but one year I saw a bluebird going in and out and in and out and in and out of one of our boxes. And I thought, great, we've got two boxes right next to each other and they both have nests in them. And then at the end of the year, I opened them up and they had built their nest in one box. And then in the other box, they had filled it all the way up to the hole with little twigs so that nobody would move in. So they're very picky about the neighborhood. They like to control the neighborhood. So other questions?
There was a question that came through the chat that was asking, I believe, where the origin of the penny nails came from, if anybody knows that answer.
You got me. Don't know. I'm sure we can blame it on the British, but I don't know why. Oops. So I've got a quick video demonstration of if you're excited about building a Bluebird box and you want to do more and you want to start from scratch. So this slide shows basically the materials that you need. You need one by 6 feet long, and you can cut your top out of the 1x6, but I much prefer making the tops out of a piece of sawmill slab. And if you actually get to being excited about doing this and you can't find sawmill slab, just let me know because I have way more than I need. And so this is a short video on just sharing a little bit about the Makery, which hopefully will be back at the Hannaford Career Center sometime when things start to open up again. We'll be able to open up our wood shop and you can see how you could make a Bluebird house from scratch in the wood shop at the Makery. So this is inside Hannaford Career Center. The construction technology class happens here. And then on Thursday evenings, we access all of these tools for the public, for folks who want to come down and work on woodworking projects on their own. That's where the construction tech classroom is, right in the corner of the wood shop. We've got power miter saws, which you'll use making the Bluebird box, a table saw, have a 24-inch planer, and an 8-inch joiner, and a bandsaw. And then kind of the main steps, you've got your materials to start with, and you're just going to lay out all the parts and pieces on that 1x6, a 16-inch back, 8 1/4 inches for the front, and then 10 1/4 inches to the long point of the angle on the sides. I left kind of a space there because there were some knots and I didn't want people having to drive nails into knots, so cut those right out. Here's the bottom. And then there's the sawmill slab that we cut up for the top. Once you've got it all laid out, there's a laser on that, that little red line on the board is the laser on the chop saw. So you start by cutting the front and the back. And once you've got the front and the back cut, the other pieces are narrower. So we're going to cut these two pieces. There I am cutting the front. And then we're going to go over to the table saw to what's called ripping. When you make a board narrower, we're going to rip that on the table saw to 4 inches. So I set that fence to 4 inches. And once we've opened up and have the Makery open on Thursday nights, the first Thursday of every month, you can get safety training on how to use all these tools safely, and go back on the miter saw to cut the other pieces out now that it's ripped down to 4 inches. And I'll set that scale over to 20 degrees to cut that angle on the top of your sides. And full disclosure, I goofed on this part and I did not tilt the saw over to 20 degrees like I should have, and I just cut it square. So that actually doesn't do the right thing, but. And then set it over at 45 degrees to cut the little corners off of the base. so that there's ventilation through the bottom of the birdhouse. Susan, anything I should be saying about you two can come do this at the Makery of the Thursday night?
I think you've said enough. I think we need to open up again, and then we can come in and everyone can bring their birdhouse. I would love to take pictures, but probably there'll be birds in them at that point. So please take pictures of your birdhouses up and email them to me if you would. I'm going to be sending you the survey tonight, so please do that and then come to the Makery, and maybe you can make another birdhouse is what I would say, so you can have more company. There is another question, Len, on the chat. They're wondering how to clean the birdhouse because apparently they nailed the roof on. So.
Oh, well, that's going to be tough if it's nailed on. What you can do if you can manage to pull that nail is you can, I'm going to see if I can pause the video for a second. You can put a nail and don't drive it all the way in, but just kind of, can you guys see my mouse cursor? Just kind of put a little tack right there. And that'll keep the back of that from being able to flip up. And then you can just pull that little nail and take the top right off. Or you can flip around to the back of the house and put a screw into the top that holds it in place. But on my houses, I don't do any of that. They just are, the tops are heavy enough that they stay down there in place and they kind of wedge in. And then I just pry them off and clean them out from the top when it's time to clean them. I don't have a real good suggestion on pulling that nail other than using a cat's paw. And again, once the Makery opens up, we could lend you a cat's paw to pull that nail.
Do you have
Does
any
anybody
thoughts? Sorry, just type of tree. My son is going to hang it in like a very leafy tree. Do they like that, or do they like being open a little more?
They like being open. They like, I think what's most important is that they're facing what's open. So they can be, you know, underneath a shady tree, but they want to be facing the sunshine. And facing south is good, or facing a meadow or a yard is good.
If there's lots of bushy evergreen leaves, would they like to be within that, or like a clear path? Are you listening?
Clear path. Yeah, they like to be able to see what's around them. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Great question.
Do people ever paint their Bluebird houses?
I think you can. I don't think the birds are crazy about it, but it does make them last longer. So yeah, I would definitely not paint the inside or the inside of the hole, but if you wanted to make it last longer, you could certainly paint the outside of it.
I don't see any other questions,
Other
in the chat.
questions?
How are we supposed to protect the thing from the rain? Because it's just wood.
So that top will, the bark and the shape of it, the water will run off that, and you know, they're birds. They're used to being out in the rain. They don't want to get soaking wet. But if you think about what other choices they would have for a place to live, your birdhouse probably looks pretty cozy to them.
I just want to say thank you very much for Len and everybody to put this together. This has been a great experience. Thank you.
Super.
Agreed. This
Thanks
is
for joining us.
who knows what will actually happen on Mother's Day. So I'm thrilled to get to spend this time.
Thank you to my mom.
Lovely.
Thank you, Len and Susan, and whoever helped us get the technology going. It's been really fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, glad you guys made it.
That's
Yeah.
And
Wendy.
everybody have a
Wendy was
great
with.
Mother's Day.
Thank you, everybody.